Okay, good morning guys. Let me just get onto the stream. Here we go. Good morning, David. By the power of grey sculpt, I like it. Right then, so picking up where we left off yesterday, I added a little pouch onto her leg after stream last time. And I don't know why. I should have done it on stream, but it was lifted off another model that... Hey, get down out of there, Mabel. Come on, have a little treat. Good girl. That's a little beef Wellington treats for us. Reward her for being a good girl today, ain't you, Mabel? Hey. Yeah, so today I'm going to get this lady finished off, and then we're going to move on to the what was his name now? The Shadow Reaver, was it or no? Go, lie down. Go lie down. Stop jumping up in my lap. Shadowblade, that was it. Oh, it's Blood Reaver, wasn't it? Sorry, yeah, Blood Reaver and Shadowblade, that's right. Okay, so picking up where we left off on this one. No, down you get now. Picking up where Picking up where we left off. I need to sort out the belt. Put a buckle on the belt, basically. Maybe a little pouch as well. Then we'll do. What I started working on yesterday was the brazier here. So I'm just going to take the middle bit here. Get off, stop sniffing. Move. Right, so we're going to duplicate. I'm going to isolate just the one. Yeah, basically. Yeah. So we're going to have this tipped on its side with some coals spilling out of it and then fire kind of rising up. So for the actual miniature itself, you've got like a nice little flame effect going on. So you've got some, when you paint it, you can have like an uplit fire effect. I think it'll look badass if you get the right person to paint it. Okay, so just boolean that out. Oh, we already dynamesh, we're not already dynamesh, so dynamesh, merge, and re-dynamesh. There we go. So now we've got a hole through the middle. Let's get my radial stuff going on. Let's get some rivets in there. Merge down. Then we're going to copy the whole thing. So for this bit now is going to make the shape more irregular. So this wants to look like some coals spilling out, so I'm just going to scrub some chunks into it. Don't need to be too detailed here because there is going to be fire all over this, so you're not really going to see all of it. So let's put a little bit of polish on that, bump the resolution up, okay, and then we go for fire. So let's append another cylinder. Snake hook to pull up a few flickering flames. We've got the round ends, we want to take them and make them a little bit more pointed, a bit more shaped. I'm going to treat it like hair, essentially, the way we did the hair strand. So I'm going to do some rough, kind of like broad shapes that we can lean into a little bit with the painting. So yeah, your fire should flow fairly well. You want some some swirls in there and make it look like it's dancing, you know. And go round the flames. Practice, David, practice. There's a lot of intuition that comes with it, you know what I mean? It's not, you can't really pull up a picture of fire and then kind of copy it from reference. It's a bit of a tricky one. You've got it. The aim is to do something that's representative of fire, not something that looks exactly like fire. Something that when people see it, they go, "Ah, that's fire," and then they paint it appropriately, or something that they can paint appropriately and make it look like fire. Doing a spell effect is very much the same. You know, if you're going to sculpt something like a magical cloud or whatever, it's probably going to look like fire at some point. So, oops, still got the old spray on. We did this, and we get some, like we did with the hair, some stranding going on. So you make it look too regular, you're going to have a problem. It's not going to look like fire. So, you know, vary up your techniques a little bit. Put that back into the scene so we can see what's going on. See a little bit of nudging just to get that back into the box. Now this one I don't want it to be, I don't want a hollow inside really, because obviously if you're going to have this produced, the inside of the basket needs to be full, so I'll probably need to bring the fire up to the top. Fill the whole void in the middle. So really I probably shouldn't have done it as a basket, should I? In retrospect I should have just solidified it and made sure there was nothing inside. But hey ho, retrospect's a wonderful thing. There we go, that should give you a really nice little bit of uplight there to get some you know, uplit flame effects. Gives the base a bit more interest as well. put a rat on there too for what it's worth. So for a rat, I'm going to go in my component library. Let's go to animals. You're not that much late. I only started 15 minutes ago, maybe. Good morning, how you doing, Yurikella? Yurikella? I always think Yuri Geller when I see your name on the thing. I think you're bending spoons. Just like our little rat mate here. Put him up to the side of the wall. I'm going to pack a little bit of stuff around the back of him so I've got a cavity behind him. Pull his tail down. I'm good, thanks. Yourself? How are you doing? Put back face mask on this one because it needs it. It's so small, if I do any sculpting on this one, it's gonna pull it through. Basically, you can't use backface mask when you're using Sculptress Pro mode. So whenever you put backface mask on when you're using Sculptress Pro, it's going to throw an error up at you. Oh, what's up with the legs, man? What's letting you down with the boots? Do you know, if you want to share something in the Discord, I can put it up on screen and have a little look at it for you while we're chatting, and give you a little bit of live feedback. Oh, just DM me then if you want, and I won't put it up on screen. We'll just I'll see if we can help you solve the problem. Right, so here I'm just going to pull the base down a little bit. I'm going to rotate it around. I'm going to pull this up underneath its legs. I have to say, parkour zombies did grab my attention. It sounded like a very interesting concept. Dying Light was a video game, wasn't it? Was that the one where you were? Oh, am I getting? No. Wasn't the one where you could hit cars and set alarms off and the zombies would come tearing after you, was it? Or was that one? I never played it, but it rings bells, and I think it was one my brother used to play. There we go, a little rat mate in the corner. Just going to slice the bottom off the base. Okay, so it's a symmetry issue for you. Have you sculpted it symmetrically, or have you turned symmetry off? Okay, I mean, the easy thing to do is obviously use mirror and weld. Oh, I get you. So, am I right in thinking then that you're sculpting a leg, but you've got the... Okay, so basically, the easiest way to solve your problem, which I think is what your problem is to sculpt the boot with full symmetry on. Sculpt the armour on the leg with full symmetry on. And then manipulate it around the leg after you've sculpted it symmetrically. So, if I'm right in thinking, oh god, say you're trying to do, like when I did the bracer on this one, I sculpted the bracer without in situ, without symmetry, without using symmetry. You're trying to do that and struggling with the symmetry. Is that right? You're struggling to get it to look even. Okay, unfortunately there's no quick win for that. So local symmetry, what that will do, it will still. So let's say if I take this rat, right, symmetry line on this model is straight up the middle here. As you can see you can see this line coming in here. The symmetry line is about here, about dead center. If I want to use local symmetry on the rat here, I've got local symmetry on. If I press X, I'm still going to get it, but it's going to take the center point of this rat, which is kind of here up the back of its elbow. It'll take this line of symmetry, and it'll do everything symmetrically there. So you can take a leg and you can sculpt symmetrically on the leg, but you know for a fact the leg's not already going to be symmetrical, so local symmetry is not going to work. So your best bet is to sculpt like your knee pad, for example, using symmetry. So add a sphere, sculpt the shape you want symmetrically, and then locate it into the knee. And then once you've got it in there, if it needs a little bit of tweaking, use a large size move brush to affect as much as possible. If you use a small size move brush, what will happen is you'll pull something and you'll deform just a small bit. So if I let me demonstrate here with this rat. Let me just save it so I don't kill my rat and lose him. So if I want to do a global shift and I want to move the proportions of this rat, okay, and I use my move brush. If I use a small move brush, then when I move, I'm going to pull a small area like that. Okay, now that might be okay. So if I just want to do like little tweaks, yeah, I want to make small changes to his proportions, whatever, then that's fine. But if I want to kind of really kind of change like how he looks, and I want to move him without deforming the overall shape, so say you've drawn like the armor trim and things like that, use a large brush, as big as you can get away with. Okay, and I can turn this into a little fat rat. In fact, let's do it. Screw it, why not? Let's make him a little fat rat. So you can see it's still the same rat, but now he's getting fatter. So I can use a little brush just to nudge tiny little bits, and use a big brush for global transformation. There we go. Now we've got a little fat rat in the corner of the scene. Okay. So yeah, start with something that's completely symmetrical, and then nudge it and adjust it to shape. And then once you're done, obviously, then do the mirror and weld to flip it over onto the other leg as well. So yeah, I mean, I'd normally start with a sphere for something like knee armor and whatever. You know it's going to be kind of roughly that kind of shape. And then obviously just try it for size. Don't do too much. Now, one of the things you can do as well, which I'll show you a trick with actually, this might help you actually. So, have you ever used oh god, what's it called now? Geometry. Stager. So have you ever used the Stager tool? Find this one useful actually for what you're trying to do. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, I'm going to append a sphere, right? I'm not going to spend too long sculpting it or anything else, right? But let's just say, for the sake of argument, we've got a sphere. This is going to be a knee pad, right? So right at the moment, this sphere is completely symmetrical, correct? So sculpt it, yes I know, we'll turn off backface mask so I can use Sculptress Pro mode. Right, I'm going to sculpt this with symmetry on, and I'm just going to go, right, here's my knee pad shape, right. I'm obviously not going to use this on this model, so this is literally just a quick demo. Cheap viewers on streamboo.com. No, thank you. I love a stream bot, haven't you? Okay, so let's say, for the sake of argument, that is my. I know, doesn't it just? The thing is, people monetize the streams, don't they? And then the more viewers you have already on a stream, the more like prominence it takes. So if you've got like 1,000 fake viewers, you're going to be shown to the real viewers. So it kind of gets you the real viewers, but you know, it's all cloak and dagger and, you know, dodgy business. I ain't getting into that kind of stuff. Not for me, thank you. Do it properly or not at all. Okay, so let's just say, for sake of argument, this is my knee pad, right? There's issues with it. It's not perfect, but you know, it is a knee pad, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my stager. So go to my geometry tab, go to stager, and I'm going to click on home stage. Okay. So that is my home stage now. I'm going to turn my symmetry off. Okay, and I'm going to go and place this over the knee. So I'm moving it, positioning it, rotating it, do what I need to do. Okay, so there. So that, not perfect, but let's say that's it. Okay, so then I click target stage. Bang, right. Now I want to do some symmetrical detail on that, but I've already positioned it. Okay, I'm going to sculpt some filigree or something into it. I want to tweak it and adjust it. So I go to switch stage. Right, now you can see it's no longer on the knee, it's back where it started, and I can work on it symmetrically. Right, so I'm going to come into my freehand thing. I'm going to sculpt a little trim around the outside, symmetrically still. Let's do a little little swirly pattern. Okay, and then let's do a little thing in there, yeah? Why not? Okay, now switch stage again. And shutting, it's back in. So now my symmetrically sculpted detail has just been slapped back into the kneecap, right? So it's now put back where I need it. Okay, so and now I can go switch stage again. I can bring it back to the front. I can enhance my border. Let's give it a more profound ridge. So I want a bigger ridge on it, or I want to change the shape here. Let's go and give it that. Say I want to kind of put a little pointy bit on the bottom. I want to do a secondary line, a ridge at the top of the plate. Yeah, this is always the problem, and this was my problem for years when I was learning. It's why I don't mind sharing information with people now, because I struggled so hard trying to find any resources to help me learn to sculpt miniatures. There's loads of information on sculpting and for 3D printing as well, but like a lot of the stuff they're dealing with, like, you know, 12-inch tall statues and stuff, and they don't account for the let's say the exaggerations you need to make for a miniature. Let's say we go for that. Let's put a few little inserts in there as well. So let's do a few tiny little insert dots. We'll put a few rivets around this bit. Okay. I say they're not perfect. I don't need them to be. But I'm going to go back to my switch stage now, and now all of that I've just added is where I want it on the knee. Does that help? Quite like that knee pad now. I kind of want to keep it. Do you know, I've considered it, but it's I will do it at some point. I promise I will do it, but obviously it's just a case of time and resource. So so yeah, let's can that now. Get rid of that. Let's get her finished up. So right, so I want to do the belt buckle. Let's go append, cube. Do you know what, guys? I'm just glad I can help. Like I say, I've made so many mistakes over the years, and if my mistakes can help other people to have a bit of an easier life, you can learn from my mistakes instead of making them yourself. I'm up for that. Right, you Billy the neck sucker. Loving it. Do you know I watched oh, what's it? Is it? It's not Night Watch. Day Shift. The one with Jamie Foxx. I watched that the other day. That is a good film. That is. I went in there with low expectations. I was thinking kind of, do you remember John Carpenter's Vampires? I used to love that one. I was kind of expecting it to be on par with that in terms of the cheese and whatever else, but genuinely I was impressed. Although for me, I don't think any vampire movie has ever come quite as close to being awesome as Dusk Till Dawn. Because that was just another level cheese, wasn't it? Tarantino at his best. Salma Hayek. It's one of those films that you... I remember a mate of mine, he watched it with his parents. Rented it from the video shop. Oh yeah, 30 Days a Night, that was brilliant, that one was. I mean, obviously the Blade movies get an honourable mention, but I never feel like they're... when I think of vampire movies, I don't actually think of Blade. Do you know what I mean? There was one, and it was absolutely bloody awful, and it was... I can't remember what it was called, and I bought it on DVD from like HMV absolutely years ago when I was at college. And it was basically Blade, except it was a white South African guy. And he was like some office worker who ended up kind of getting turned into a vampire, and then all this stuff happens. And then there was just a bit where he went, you know, he comes back as a vampire and he's got to go and like wreak vengeance on the people who turned him into a vampire. And there's a point in the film where he goes, so I went back to my apartment to get my sword and my armour. And it's like, why the bloody hell have you got a sword and armour just sat in your apartment as an office worker? There was no context to it. And all of a sudden this guy turns up looking like Blade, but white. It was like, it was one of those things that just annoyed me. It was just the most lazy storytelling I've ever seen. Yeah, because he could. Because they basically wanted to create this Blade thing, and they couldn't be bothered to set any kind of like context or frame of reference for why this guy had got. Yeah, he wasn't a kendo master. He wasn't doing any kind of, you know, martial arts training. He wasn't even doing bloody airsofting to justify having a bit of armour in his house. Do you know what I mean? He just had this like this full set of ballistics armour that he just slaps on and looks like some kind of like badass vampire slayer. And you're just like, no, this is just no. And there was a bit where he blows up the building that he's going into, and you can tell it was a proper B movie at this point, because like you hear the explosion, but all you saw was a flash of light on his face. So like it showed you him observing the explosion rather than the actual explosion, and I was like, you guys are just cheaped out now. This is just slack. It was like a college project or something rather than a film. Let's have a little bad vampire movie. Bad South African vampire movie. It's not Eternity. It wasn't Pure Blood. I feel like history's forgotten this movie and just like written it off. But yeah, it was bad, man. Do you know, I also recently tried to watch what's that new one with the Nicolas Cage as Dracula? He's just bad. Renfield, was it? Renfield. And like, oh yeah, Renfield's a superhero too, but he gets his powers from eating bugs. Really? Yeah, Nicolas Cage. At no point, when I saw Nicolas Cage as Dracula, I was like, really? Like, he would be the last person I would cast in that role. I think about him as Ghost Rider, and like, for all his good films, he's not scared of taking a duff one here and there, is he? That's the problem. You look at things like Snake Eyes and what was the one? Con Air. You know, there's some really good 8mm, was it? I think. Oh, and Face Off, of course. He's done some absolutely incredible roles, but then like Dracula was just not one of them, and neither was Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider was pants. He's Nicolas Cage no matter what you put him in, isn't he? As you've kind of suggested there, Nicolas Cage is just Nicolas Cage. Oh, now I can never remember the belt. So, belt, strap pads in there. What's this way? Yeah, it was definitely one of those what the hell were they thinking kind of movies. And I will admit, I had it on as a whilst I was working, so I was sculpting at the time. So I didn't really have an awful lot of attention on the film. It was kind of more background noise. And even then, it was I struggled with it. So, do you know another one, Dracula Untold? That was an enjoyable film. That was. I like that one. No, it's not that one. It's this one. It's a tough one. It's a tough genre, isn't it? Because like, there's so much kind of pre-established, like, you know, background and lore and history and things around vampires. Everyone's got their own ideas about it. I mean, we were talking yesterday, weren't we, about the whole thing with like vampires' ears, for example. You know, do your vampires have pointy ears or not? Yeah, Underworld movie's a classic as well. I say, I love a little bit of Kate Beckinsale as well. Bon Jovi's Dracula. Don't remember that one. I do remember. What was it called? Interview with a Vampire. That was, yes, Queen of the Damned. That was one I was trying to think of. Yeah, Interview with a Vampire was a great film, and then followed up by Queen of the Damned. It was a bit of a an emo hat tip, wasn't it, to the Dracula kind of thing. Right, so I think belt done now. I think she's virtually ready. What I will do, I'm going to bring in one of my trusty old buckles. No. Buckle small, buckle new 2, that one. This is one of those things I always find immensely useful to just have on hand. So when you're doing like little straps and things on a character, you're always going to need a little buckle. And what I've just done on the belt there, and I'm just kind of going like, oh, now which way round does it go? If you can figure it out once. Now what I typically do with this is plonk that into place. So I'm going to duplicate it and put another one there. I'll duplicate it again, but this time I'm going to mirror it. I'll pop it there. Now the one thing you always need to do with these is to deform them a little bit so they curve around. So I've sculpted them flat. Sometimes they go on flat surfaces, sometimes they just go on a round surface. So first thing we do is put the widget on them. Then I'm going to go up to the cog in the corner, and I'm going to go to bend curve. Pull this little orange widget, which gives me a couple of extra points. And then I want to try and just move these things and just reposition them. So it just has that curve to it now. Okay, sweet, that one's done. So back off that one. Come to this one. Again, line your brush through, the widget through. Curve, bend, curve. Right, now one of the things that's happened here is this has become a little bit stretched, so I just need to just come in here and just modify the trousers just a little bit where they're going over the buckle. See what little pouches and bags I've got saved into my component library. Small pouch one. Let's see what that looks like. Perfect. That is exactly what I was after. Absolutely perfect. They're very quick things to make, but if you can save them down and just have them available. we go. I think we can call it done now. Oh, I'll tell you what, there's one last thing I needed to do, which was on the base, which was just remove that bottom bit. And then on there we just got a little bit of why does it keep doing that? There we go. What do you reckon, David? We're good? I mean, I can, or I can taper it down and blend it. Your call. Well, I'm tempted to slice a bit more off it, if I'm honest. I think it's quite thick. 10, 20, about 30 millimeters wide. Is that okay? So, I'll wait for you to finish your Mission Impossible, lad. Alright, cool. So I'm saying it's about 30 millimeters wide. Do you want me to taper the base? Let's have a look how we did it on the others. So Hellranger. So he's got the base with the stuff overhanging, some of the details overhanging it. And then we've got the Barbarian. So yes, I think our base is just a bit thick, isn't it? Let's slice it down. Let's cut the base thinner. Right there on the edge. So thin the base down a little bit, and then I think trying to do so. What I've tried to do with the others, David, I've tried to keep a small area at the bottom of the base that's kind of just vertical. There's a flat bit basically. So I'll taper the edges out a bit so the texture can come down, and then we'll maintain that we'll maintain a lip at the bottom that is just vertical, which obviously just gives you a bit more meat on the bones when you're dealing with the casting side of things. So if you take it to a thin, if you take it to a really thin kind of finish at the bottom, the problem you'll always have with that is the cast side of things. It might end up too thin when they're doing the mold making. I don't know why I started doing this recently. It's a weird thing, but it keeps creating multiple slices when I slice through things. You just tell me what you want and I'll make it happen. Keep pressing this. I don't know what button I'm pressing, but I keep getting the Copilot pop up on the screen. So David, I meant to ask actually, with Hell, how, other than the visuals and stuff, how are you when we're talking about like Diablo, like, yeah, I know, aren't they just? I wouldn't be surprised, mate, if there's certain elements of this that are going to have to be like reworked entirely. My thinking is this section here that I've just done, with the base and the rat and everything else, I think will end up being a separate section to the wall. So I think they're going to end up plugging the wall in. So the base with the flames and stuff, I think, can be done as part of one thing. The wall will be a second piece, and then obviously the model itself. I don't think I should struggle too much with the actual hero. Maybe 4. I'm thinking possibly this arm. Probably the arm from the elbow. I think you'll end up having a cut there. The head, the torso, this leg will all be one piece. This leg, this forearm with the sword will probably get cut off. And then maybe the skirt ends up as a separate piece. So it'll be down to the tooling guys really, how they mash that up. But just got to figure out how we're going to anchor her to the wall. Well, originally I was thinking a couple of bricks, but I don't know if that's going to work now. Because I've taken out more of the wall, so there's not enough bricks to hold it. Maybe we just do a little plug. A little stud there and a little stud there, a little stud there to just plug her in. I'll keep her as separate pieces anyway. So if the guys need the model in bits so that they can do the slicing a bit more efficiently, then they've got it available to them. Do you know what I mean? So let's okay. So turning this into a 3D file or a printable file. The first thing we need to do is merge all the bits together. So the wall. Yeah, sorry. So what I wanted to ask was when, in terms of the game play, as in how the game actually operates and works. I know you've gone for Diablo. Are you going for like the hack and slash kind of Diablo vibe for the game, or you know, what's the intention for the game itself? So we know about the visuals. We can see what the visuals are. So I'm thinking more like gameplay, you know, mechanics and stuff like that. What should people expect? Hack and slash start, and then it got more and more complex, and hack and slash went a bit into the background. It became more tactical. Okay. Because I was thinking, obviously the problem with a hack and slash game is from a miniatures point of view. It's a lot of miniatures, isn't it? To do hack and slash properly, you need an awful lot of models. Save this. A bit like hanging, and I'm not liking it. So yeah, because I actually thought about a Diablo type game back in 2016 when I did my first Kickstarter. And one of the things that stopped me from doing it was obviously the cost of producing the models. But to produce the volume of enemy models I'd need to really get that Diablo kind of kill everything in sight and gather loads of loot kind of stuff, it weren't an option. Do you know what I mean? It's more viable now with 3D printing, but I still wouldn't want to. I would maybe do it as a print on demand thing, or you know, and sell the STL files for it rather than try to produce it as a finished kind of delivered board game kind of thing. But I think your cost would be, the cost would be crazy, wouldn't it? Like, so I think I don't know if people realise this, but when you look at these big games that have got like loads of miniatures. Even being made in China, which is the cheapest possible solution, the tooling for a single miniature is still around about $1,000. So Maladrum, oh, it sounds familiar. I know there's quite a few of them have gone down the STL. I mean, even oh, what's the one called? The trenches one. The trench warfare. Yeah, so they do it based on like a socket in an injection mold, and normally for like a single socket it's about $1,000. So that's for a normal like humanoid character. But again, if you've got multiple parts and loads of bits and bobs like that need to go in, then that's gonna add up. So if it overspills one mold, then you end up paying for 2 molds or 1.5 molds or whatever. Yeah, and then obviously you have merger down. Yeah, so you have about $1,000 a socket, and then that's pretty much one miniature. Yeah, that's where your scale's got to be important, isn't it? So if your figures are too big, then you're going to overspill. And obviously when you start having massive monsters and bad guys and stuff, when you see these Kickstarters, I've got like 200 models like thrown in and bundled in, you know already they've got to hit 200 grand minimum to even kind of consider doing that. Yeah, with 1,500 backers you can do it. But again, there's a point. I mean, like I say, you've got to be able to clear 200 grand worth of miniatures just to break even. Do you know what I mean? Once you've passed the 200 grand and you've got your mold making covered, the cost of onward production is minimal, because you're talking about, like, you know, pennies for plastic injection. All the money's in the tooling. So to be profitable from a miniature heavy Kickstarter, you've got to be able to kind of go down that route. I say with Crystal Collapse, you know, I decided early on I wanted to stick with 3D printed models, purely because from my point of view, if I'm producing them, I've got more control on them. Yeah, kind of, around about that kind of mark. But again, I mean, with that one, it's viable if you're doing large quantities, isn't it? But for Crystal Collapse, we're dealing with, like, you know, 200 sets of miniatures at the moment. Late pledges are going to be opening imminently. I've just had the thumbs up from them, so I'll put the late pledges up later this afternoon. But yeah, the whole thing is, from my point of view, I want to maintain the quality of the models, and as soon as I hand it off to somebody else, you never know what you're going to get. You never know how they're going to chop them up. You don't know how the molds are going to kind of... Obviously, anything that gets broken down into pieces for moulding is going to have to be reassembled before it goes into the boxes. And that's where you end up with the loss of quality. So you always end up with mould lines and stuff like that anyway. But then with the with the additional like tooling requirements and everything else that you get with the plastics, there's undercuts that you can't deal with, there's certain shapes that won't work, you know, detail that's on the side and the front isn't possible. You've got to make sure there's, you know, it's orientated correctly. Yeah, exactly, and it's an occupational hazard with those kinds of things. You just have to accept that it's happening like that. And then with the 3D printed stuff, like, for me, it's a lot. It's easy for me to do because we're obviously selling miniatures as a business. That's our main thing. So we want people to be buying the models. The fact that they're getting a game is great. The game is a means to sell the miniatures as well. Do you know what I mean? So we want to encourage people to buy the miniatures and kind of like play the game with them. And yeah, it's one of those kinds of, oh, come on, save. It is one of those kind of things that is like, for me, the money for me comes from the miniatures, not from the games. So selling the game, the profit levels that we make are okay, but there's nothing to scream and shout about. Once people start buying the miniatures, we start making money, and that's the, you know, from a business point of view, that's the only way to do it, isn't it? You got to have something in there. You have the game's a loss leader. You know, you produce the game, you make a bit of a loss on the game, or you make a very small profit on the game and accept that that's fine. And you know you can make the money back elsewhere. Yeah, absolutely, and it's all volume dependent as well. Like if we had 2,000 backers all buying miniatures, that would break my production capacity. I'd have to expand massively and hire people to come and run the printers for me and produce stuff. And I wouldn't be able to do that with the facilities I've already got, so I'd have to go and get another premises to level it up. I'm running 4 printers at the moment, and with 4 printers I can do 2, 4, say between 80 and 150 miniatures at a time for Crystal Collapse. So I can do 80 to 150 models at a run, and then I can get 2, maybe 3 plates out in a day if I'm focused. So, you know, worst case scenario, 80, 160, 240 miniatures to, call it 500. So I can do between 240 and 500 miniatures a day. But that means I've got to be manning the printers to be able to do that. And obviously if you're selling 2,000 sets and every person's buying 50 models, that's an awful lot of days of printing you've got to kind of get through to cycle it around. So you end up having to scale up to like 10 printers instead. And then that's more space, more effort, more time on the printers, etc. That's when it becomes a job for somebody then. Alright, so we've got Blood Reaver and Blood Reaver base. Blood Reaver polys, Blood Reaver base polys. So I'll just duplicate them and save them down. So if anything gets screwed up, I can always go back to these ones where everything is its own separate component. So you can see here now, I've merged everything together. Everything that is a different colour is its own object. So what I can do is isolate just that one piece and edit that if I need to. If I need to close some gaps, I can come in there and do that at this point as well. But for the next stage, we're going into the Blood Reaver model, and all I want to do here is turn groups off, bump up the resolution to 1200, 1300, and I'm going to dynamesh the whole thing together. Okay, now I auto group that. It's going to change colour and it's going to go red. Right, there we go. Fully dynameshed, solid model. Okay, I need to come into the hands. Oh, something I've just remembered, actually shed gloves on, so just need to thicken the fingers a touch because they're a bit too weak. And then we'll just mask, not like that. Lasso mask the digits. I'm just going to do a globe inflate on that. That gives us a thicker glove. Want to do the same up here, but obviously the issue we have here is we've got the swords in the way, so I can't quite do what I just did. I'll do this one a little differently. So two techniques to do the same thing. Right, now remember I said before under here we're going to have problems with the sword disconnecting if you're not careful about the connection point. You want as much of the hand contacting as much of the guard as you possibly can, and that will stop the blade from snapping off at the base. Just get a real smooth over. A bit of H polish. And I'm just going to use the orb cracks just to run over the edge. Like that. Clear definition between them. Okay, so there we go. There is. She's got gloves on now, so she's ready to rock. Right, so we need to have a look at any other areas that need to be smoothed in. So under there, I'm quite comfortable that that's all blended well. Let's come up here. We're going to the armpit. I'm just going to mask off just the area I need so it doesn't weigh me down in polys. Come on, do and just smooth that out. And then we'll go over to the other arm, we'll do the same. And again, do this with your Sculptures Pro mode and it'll just smooth it out that much quicker and easier. Okay. Balls. So there we go. One female vampire assassin Blood Reaver. And then the final thing is the connection point. So I think on one of the models I used a trapezoid shape. I think I might do the same again. Let's go for a pen cube. Now the reason for using a trapezium rather than a cylinder or a ball or anything else is just because something that tapers in. Yeah, it was the necromancer. I knew I'd done it on one of them. Using something that tapers kind of gives you a better fit. When you have something that's a plug that is like a cylinder, unless it's going vertically straight into something or horizontally into something, it can be difficult to make that fit. With the trapezium shape, kind of a pyramid with a flat end, essentially. We're going to taper, grab this end, I'm going to pull it into that, and I'm going to keep the curve. I'm going to keep the curve profile, and then this can be the mounting point for the close into the wall then. So you will see a little bit of it underneath, but that's fine. Go to transparent mode. So here we can see how far into the wall it's penetrating. So it's got a decent bit of penetration into the wall. It's not coming through the other side. It's turned the archer off because he's getting in the way. probably need to drag it back a touch just so it's not, it gives us a thickness here. I'm just going to mask off the end of the thing. Let's dynamesh it first. Right, so I think that should be enough really. There's a couple of points where the clothes are contacting, which is good. So what I need to do now is just sculpt this bit out. This doesn't have to be pretty, it's just to not protrude through the clothing. And I don't want to carve it back too much that I end up with a hollowing on the other side. Like that. As I think about it, the simpler thing to do would have been to boolean out the cloak from this shape. And that would have left me with a removable part on the outside. But it's done now. There you go. Right, so I take that shape now. We find the Blood Reaver. We merge her into that. Then we duplicate Blood Reaver. Place her below the wall in the sequence. First thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to dynamesh the wall. I actually don't know, I need to keep that plugged down, so. Okay, right, so we merge all this together. And then this one, we inflate just a touch. Inflate it to 3. And that gives us a little bit of wiggle room, so if you're using a DLP printer you'll get very good tolerance, you'll probably be able to get away with not doing that bit. If you're not, or if your printer isn't 100% dialed in, you need a little bit of wiggle room, so that you should always like inflate the object you're booleaning out. Booleaning? Weird word, but yeah. So we're going to turn this into the negative mesh by clicking on that icon. This is going to become the start of the chain. So we go to the wall, we go to the make sure the wall is above. We want this dynameshed as well, so let's put 1200 or more on the dynamesh. Merge it all auto group. Okay, and then we merge down and we just redo the Dynamesh. Okay, so now we've got a wall. The pink areas are the areas where the Blood Reaver contacted the wall. So this is where you'll apply the glue, and this is where you'll have surface to surface contact. So it's not a lot of space. There's nothing on the actual base where she's touching. It's just there, so it keeps her kind of give the illusion of her kind of floating. So now I just need to pre-process the base. Get some ready for 3D printing. This does. So this can take a minute, this can, it just depends upon the complexity of the file. But you only want to do this stage after you've Dynameshed everything together, because otherwise you'll still have intersecting meshes which your slicer's not going to thank you for. Okay, so that one's there, and then we decimate. So it's gone from 2.4 million polys down to 845,000. That's still too much, so we'll reduce the percentage down to 10, 11, and then redo decimates. 486,000. All the details still there, and it's much lower weight, so I'm happy with that. We'll stick with that one. For the Blood Reaver, pre-process. So she's currently 2.16 million polys. The key here with decimation, you want to make sure that you decimate everything so the file size is as small as possible, but you want to do it without destroying the surface quality of the model. So it's getting close. And let's decimate currents. Okay, so let me just change the group colour. I am pretty happy with that. 248,000 polys I can live with entirely. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we go and hide the barbarian and his base, and then we get rid of the horizontal base, and then we have a 100mm ruler, which is my absolute in the scene, and then we go export to STL. So the y-axis is set to 100mm. Now normally this would be up here in Z plugin. So we go to 3D print hub. So you can see I'm using this here. So you can click update size ratios if you want, but basically all we need to do with this active here, we come up here, set this to 100mm on the y-axis. Everything else then becomes relative to that. Okay, so if I click on that, I click on her, click on that, these two are active in the scene, as in they're visible. Then we go to export STL. I'm going to go and find David's file. Blood Reaver, and out we go. Okay, so that's done. Final thing we need to do on here. I'm going to pull up netfab. It's always worth doing. It's only a little thing, but too many people don't do it. Set the STL files, drop them onto netfab. Automatic part repair, yes. I'm using a free version of netfab, by the way. It's the unlicensed free version, so I've got limited features, but I've got plenty enough to do what I need here. So add the parts, and it's automatically running a repair process on the files right now. And there she is. And you see the names of the files are up in the top left corner. They both say repaired. So let's click on the first one, which is the base. Export part as STL file. Okay, so it's giving me an exclamation mark. It says there are 2 degenerate triangles. Click optimize. Well, thank you, David. I am rather ravishing, but okay, now we've got a big tick on there, so that's fine. So that was repaired. We go to the second bit, and again, right click on the file name, export part as STL file. 1 degenerate triangle. Optimize that one. Now we've got a tick. Okay, and we're done with that. So close that down. So David, that is in your folder, ready for you to work on. So now we're going to go and pick the second one. Pick another file. Okay, so this one now, this is the Shadowblade. Let's get stuck in straight away. Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm quite pleased with it myself, to be honest. Right, let's import ahead. Okay, now the actual head itself doesn't matter an awful lot on this one because he's going to be fully covered up. Proper hood on. So just delete all the extra bits, close holes, and I'm just going to polish that. So this is me creating the mantle on the guy. I think someone's just trashed a strimmer. You said it fire up and then immediately it sounded like it just like snapped the blade off. Gotta be done, hasn't it? Gotta have the hoods and the capes. In fact, people not wearing enough capes is one of the major problems with the modern world, I feel. We should wear more capes. No. I don't own a cape, sadly. Lots of hoodies though. I am indeed. Availability is part of the problem, isn't it? If they were more readily available, I might be tempted. Maybe. No, they need to be longer, don't they? They've got to. You've got to be able to wrap them around yourself. I actually saw there's a guy on Instagram who sells capes, and he's trying to kind of like put them back into like mainstream wear. They've got these travelling capes that they use, that they wear, him and his wife, they manufacture them and they sell them. Yeah, they are quite cool, I've got to admit. I'm glad somebody else agrees. You watch, having had this discussion now, we're going to find our Instagram feeds, and now we're going to start promoting us the travel capes. Oh yeah, definite. Oh, you should get yourself on Instagram. You know, it's quite a good place to share your work. You will have to filter out when you first started. You will have to filter out all the people doing stupid dances. It's one thing I noticed, like, between me and my wife, the things that pop up in my feed and the things that pop up in her feed are completely different. Hers have all got the same bloody soundtracks, and it's just narcissistic people dancing and making themselves look stupid. And then these poor blokes who are married to them or whatever, who get dragged into it. It's like, you will do the stupid trending dance with me. Okay. Whatever you say, darling. And then he's standing there for the world to see him, looking like a complete... Mabel, get off my foot. Your work is the work of a blind sculptor that's half dead and has one hand. Do you know what? I entirely disagree with that. Because I've seen your work. And not only has it improved since you started, I actually think it's a respectable quality. There's a lot of people out there like running Patreons and stuff with lower quality models, so don't be so hard on yourself. Although actually, while I'm working on this, let's have a little chat about that, because this is one of the problems you'll have as an artist, right? So there's a point that every artist is going to reach, if they're a good one, or if they've got potential, where you're going to hate everything you do. You'll be producing stuff and you're just going to get frustrated that it just looks crap. And you'll show it to other people, and other people will go, no, that's brilliant, what are you talking about, you know? And you'll be like, no, you just don't see it like I do, you know. And then they'll be like, oh, you're too close to your work and all this kind of stuff, right? So basically what's happening at that point is your standards and your expectations of yourself are exceeding your ability. And it's not a bad place to be, but it is a sink that you can fall into. So essentially what will happen is you think you should be able to do better, and you've got an eye for detail that is telling you that your stuff isn't good enough. Right, so you're looking at your stuff and objectively saying this needs to be better. Now at this point what you need to do is, instead of being dismayed by it and put off and whatever else, you need to go, right, how can I improve this? What do I need to do better? What would I do different if I did this again? Right? Critique your work, show it to people like myself, get some feedback on it, see what you think, see what other people think, professionals in the industry, right? Don't ask anybody who's kind of like got no ability, or you know, anybody who's like outside of the industry or the hobby, because they're always going to kind of blow smoke up your ass if they're friends, or they don't understand what they're looking at, and their responses and their feedback is essentially meaningless. So figure out the way that you're going to move forward and improve. And the thing is, every single time you do something, you want to go in there with an objective to do something better than you did the previous time. And every time you do that, you're going to get better. And you go in there with an objective, and you make sure you achieve your objective. Right? So if your objective is, I want to do a better face than I did last time. And sometimes it's going to be subjective, sometimes it's objective, right? So sometimes there is an actual, you know, no question of a doubt, this is better than the last one I did. And other times it's going to be down to opinion. It's going to be kind of like, I think it is, but somebody else might disagree with you, right? The important opinion in this one is you, right? So do you feel that what you've done is an improvement on what you did before? And if it is, fantastic. Get onto your next model, set yourself an improvement target, something that you're going to do better again. Okay? Every time you sculpt, every time you do something, go in with that objective in mind. Bloody dog. Yeah, go in with that one objective in your head and make sure that you achieve it. And then every time you sculpt, you're going to get better. And ultimately, what you want to do is you want that standard that you've got to be equalled with your skill level. So when you set out to make a model and you have this idea, this vision in your head of how it should look and what it should be, the thing that you actually create matches up in your head. And when you get to that point, you'll be far more confident and obviously far better. you know what? Let me just see a second. So obviously we know the last model I sculpted was the Blood Reaver. I was going to have a little look and see if I can find one of my early ones. Mabel. I only have drives. Oh, do you know what? I think I know where they are. Right, here we go then. So I've just found the first models that I ever actually finished on so here's the Kickstarter banner for them, right? So these were the first 4 miniatures I ever actually finished through to completion that I'd planned to do as a Kickstarter. And I mean, I still released them eventually. but they ended up different. So he ended up very different. He ended up very different as well. This one ended up fairly similar, but with a staff instead of a book. And this one ended up with about 100 different variations that ultimately got made. But this was like this was my, and each of these took me about a month a piece. They weren't fast sculpts. They were about a month each. Oh, cheers, man. Yeah, he's still in my collection. I've still got him now. But obviously, let me show you the current version of him versus that one. Renders, where are you? So that's him now. You can see I kept the flame, the dragon flame thing. I amended the robes. I added some detail to the legs, changed his boots, gave him a little staff with the dragon on it as well. Yeah, I wanted him to make him look like he's an academic, like wizard, because obviously wizards are kind of sitting in a study reading and stuff. They're not out there pumping iron and whatever else. So I thought I'd chunk him up a little bit, add some extra details, and kind of, you know, I'm far happier with the new one. And I also did the feather mantle a little bit better. So this was just like, this is more furry, I think, than feathery. And if I find the fighter as well, let's find this guy. I'll show you how he evolved over time. And again, the new version of him is far better than the original. So you can see all the details still, you know, the basis of him's there. His armour's changed, obviously. His shoulder pads changed. The fur collar became a bit more pronounced. So yeah, so he became this one. The barbarian became that. So you can still see the key elements that were kept from the original design. And then the rogue. I can't remember what I did with the rogue. I don't think I ever did the rogue, you know. I must have done. Well, that's going to annoy me now. Have you ever seen the theory about Gandalf, by the way, about him being a top level fighter rather than a wizard? Right, so here we go. Here was the Kickstarter I did. Right, so the rogue became that. That was what the rogue ended up as. So from that to that. So again, a lot of the details there, a lot of what I did originally was kept and retained, but then I added certain bits, made them a little bit more slick. But these are the first ones I ever did commercially that were going to be, you know, sold as a miniature range. And these ones were the origins of them that kind of never quite made it to Kickstarter. Yeah, the thing I kept seeing was with Gandalf that made me laugh, was they were basically saying like the way you'd tackle a wizard, you get up close and kind of like go and fight them or whatever else. So Gandalf is actually a very high level fighter masquerading as a wizard to lull his enemies into a false sense of security so he can go and mash them up and cause havoc on them. And I quite like the idea of that. Like when you see him like with his you know, his magic and whatever else, his magic has this kind of quite simple, like it's almost not magic, do you know what I mean? What he does, like he makes a little bit of light, or you know, a big flash, or like his big one in The Hobbit, wasn't it? Was splitting the rock in half and kind of making the trolls turn to stone, or like obviously that was just the sun. That was just the sun coming up. So Gandalf didn't really do an awful lot of anything there. But then he turns up at a battle and everybody thinks, oh, there's a wizard, let's go and get him. And then he pulls out, the first thing he does is not start casting magic and like chanting spells or whatever. It's the first thing he does is pull his sword out and start carving people up. Well, that's not really the behaviour of a wizard, is it? So there's this theory going around that Gandalf is just actually a really high level fighter. I don't even know. I don't think he'd tell you. I think he'd do it in secret, just so we can throw you off the scent. He'd be like turning up dressed as a bard. You know what I mean? In fact, have you ever seen that Anatoly, the weightlifter guy? I think he's brilliant. But that's what you want to be. That's the person you want to be in a battle. The guy who turns up as a janitor and everybody underestimates him and thinks he's a joker, and he's like, oh, can I lift these you know, 1,000 kilogram weights that you've got there? And they're like, oh, don't be stupid, no, you can't do that, you're just the janitor. And the next thing you know, he's like, oh, I'll just move them out the way then. And then he moves them, and they're all looking at him like, holy shit, what just happened? Hang on a sec, what's she barking at? Come on, sit down. Come here. Let's give Mabel a little treat. Sit. Oh, good girl. Right, stop barking at the neighbours. Okay. Yeah, so let your enemies underestimate you. That's the way to do it, isn't it? Let them think that you're not worth. Like if I was a professional boxer or a professional like kickboxer or anything like that, I'd never be posting my videos of me training or anything like that online. Why would you want your opponents to be able to see everything you can do before they get to you? Wow. There's always that, isn't there? It's the same with anything though, isn't it? Advertising and advertising is always going to bring you the money in, but you've obviously got to make sure that you can follow it up and deliver the goods, really, haven't you? So I'll make this guy's armour look leathery, so I'm trying to give it layers and studs and things to help it stand out a little bit. Give me a sec, guys, just got to get the door. Oh, no worries, Dave. Catch up with you later, mate. I'll catch up with you soon. Have a good one. Mabel, stop it. Last fly. Let's leave that there like that. Duplicate that to the other side. Mirror and weld. Oops, no, else him off. Mirror and weld. So we've got let's remove all the internal geometry. Just keep the outside stuff, delete hidden, close holes. I'm going to use inflate at the back. Bring all that together. Big old belt around his waist. So the concept art I've got for this guy, by the way, guys, it's very much, it screams Altair from the first Assassin's Creed. It's got a very kind of that kind of vibe, but with black robes. Not sure what's going on here. Let me save this because it's been a while. In fact, let me just go and grab myself a snack as well because I'm starving, Marvin. I'm just going to pop you on a BRB, I'll top up my drink and get a little bite to eat. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, do not go away. Okay guys, back now. Let's get resume with this. Get down, you. Stop jumping at me. That's it. Oh, good girl. Good girl. Okay, so belt. Get down. Come on. Stop jumping up. Okay. Yes, Mabel, you're a gorgeous little doggy. But I've got to work. One more little tree. Lie down. Okay? Yeah. Good girl. Okay then, so sort the ends of these out. There's like a decorative band around the end of the sleeve, so let's just sculpt that in. Let's just polish out all of this. Refine that edge first before I start polishing. So layers and the distinction between layers is one of the most important things with miniatures. One of the best ways to add intrigue and interest to the model. I was just making a mantle. So the hood will be attached to this, and then there'll be some straps and things going around it and over it and into it and whatnot. Go away, fly. Okay, so the brief on this one: posed, standing as if he's surrounded with enemies in front and behind, holding one dagger in front and one dagger behind him, as per the illustration. Lots of leather straps and accessories, and hides his face in a cloak. Okay, got that one. What kind of boots are we going to give this dude? Go to me component library, see if we've got any boots in there. They're no good. They're a bit too Viking-y, aren't they? Wizard boots. I wonder if that's going to be a good base starting point. For some inexplicable reason, they're upside down. I think maybe we could work with them. Let me try wizard. Let me try the other wizard. Oh, get off my drink, you dirty little fly. Possibly a better starting point. Still upside down now. Okay, let's take this boot. Let's bring it higher. Let's go for a little bit of a turn down on top of the boot. I'm just freestyling here, guys, so just trying to come up with interesting boot design that's not overly complicated. Cheers, man. Yeah, it's more just a case of I don't want to use the wizard's boot as it is, and I want to kind of give this like the assassin's boot a bit more layers and a few more buckles and that kind of stuff. So now this bit, I think I'm going to go for a kind of a Whatever happened here? So this is one of the things I was saying before in a previous stream. Don't ever be afraid. If you see something like this where the mesh is deformed and mangled up and it looks a mess and you've got to try and fix it, the last thing you want to be doing is trying to panic and kind of go, shit, when did I last save it? Can I restore it? Can I go back? And just get into habit of just redoing the detail, like reworking it. It becomes far less an issue for you then. You won't panic so much, you'll be more confident with it. And it's not the end of the world when something goes wrong. And you might have spent a lot of time getting to that point. But, you know, it happens. And it happens more than you want it to. So, get used to the idea of having to rework certain areas. Usually you'll be better off with it by the time you've finished anyway, because the newer version almost always trumps the original. So yeah, as a challenge to yourself, the next time something doesn't go right, the next time you have an issue with something, redo it, but sculpt it out. Don't press the undo button, because that's cheating. Because the undo button's not always there. There's times when I've been working and I'll find my undo history is like 1 or 2 notches. And everything else has been deleted, because ZBrush, what it will do, if you're working on a high demand file, it will streamline it for you and it will delete things like the undo history to kind of reduce RAM. Or you save, you load, you don't have the undo history saved, and then you don't have it available to you. So yeah, it is very, very, very good practice to be able to just be able to like redo, and without drama as well. You don't want to kind of stress yourself out over it. It's easy to do. It's easy to get worked up if you're you know, worked up and build doom and gloom because something's not gone right, and it'll do you no good. Well guys, I've got another 20 minutes or so, half hour on the stream here, and I'll wrap this up and then we'll resume it tomorrow, okay? Let's just see how far I can get in 20 minutes. I'm going to go copy these. I'm going to go back to my assassin, Shadowblade. I'm going to paste them. And they are teeny tiny, as I knew they would be. So I'm just going to scale them up. Let's just move his foot inwards. Mirror mold that. Make sure L symmetry is not on. I did all this earlier on the top part, but I haven't touched the lower part yet. The lower part's going to be a big billowy job, so let's get his legs sculpted first. Let's hide the upper body robes. I'm going to sculpt these straight onto his actual legs. Yep, they are, mate. Boots and lower legs done. Let's put his cloak back on. Let's sort this gnarly mess. In fact, I'm not going to touch that gnarly mess until right, I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to bring in some ready-made hands. Hands. Which hands do I want? Relaxed and sword grip. That sword and hammer grip, that's what I want. Oh, these are the ones I made for my Minotaur, so... Just need to just adjust the fingertips a touch. Yeah, it's worth having a look into actual grips when you're holding different weapons. So the sword grip and a hammer grip are very slightly different. A sword grip has a little bit more kind of flex in the hand, a little bit more of an angle. Hammer grip is like a firm, solid, chunky fist. A sword grip has to be a little bit lighter. So see, this is the hammer grip with the purple stick, and that's the sword grip. See how the sword grip is a little bit more angled? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use both of these hands on my dude here. Yeah, sure, fire them up. Mr. Dave. Do you know what's funny, right? There was a guy who I used to work with years ago. His name was Sagata. And he used to come into the office. And I dealt with this guy for years, right? And he used to come into the office all the time. And he would be like, you know, he'd walk in, he'd go, "Hi Dave, how you doing, Dave?" And I've got a lanyard around my neck with Dan on it. I'm emailing him with my name in my email address, signing off all of my emails Dan, and yet every single time I ever saw this guy, he kept calling me Dave. And he wasn't being funny about it, he wasn't being ironic, he wasn't doing an only fools and horses kind of thing. He just genuinely, for some reason, thought my name was Dave. So I thought I would mess with him, so I went and got myself a mug that said Dave's mug. And then every time he'd be in the office, he'd walk past and he'd be like, "Hi Dave," and I'd lift my mug and I'd raise it like a little toast to him. To say, "Oh yeah, how you doing?" And I'm drinking out of Dave's mug with everything else like saying Dan on it. You just reminded me of all of that then. Sent. Are we on the Discord, are we? Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what you're talking about. See there where you've got the overlapping layers, I assume you've got them as separate pieces. Because obviously you can polish and clean up all the individual bits. Then the shin guard and the all that bit there is looking good though. The rest of the armour is looking cool. I'm liking it. I like the style you've gone for as well. Okay, so the hammer grip that I've got here, that's going to be a reverse blade. And the other one is going to be a forward blade. Right, and I know what weapon I want here. For weapons, swords and daggers. Well, it's not none of them. That one. Change the profile of the blade a touch. Right, so with this one, right, so the first thing I'm just going to do, I'm just going to tidy up this mesh a bit because this is going to make a bit of mess here. Let's take the hands out. delete that. Right, now I've got these hands here, and I need to make sure this aligns with the stick. The handle aligns with the stick. Okay, so there's one, and then merge visible. Sorry, no, not merge visible. Mirror and weld with the LCM off. And now I need to flip this one round. And again, I just want to align it with the hand, the stick. So there we go. Now I can come to these, I can just take the sticks out, which are my placeholders for the handles, and everything fits like a beaut, like a dream. Okay. Merge the swords into the hands. There we go. Okay, so he is ready for posing. I'm not going to do posing today, I'll do the posing on the next session. Let's get a few extra little bits ready for him. So we'll put some belts on, we'll do some I don't know one way. It'll do. So one belt, two belt. Let's laser mask this because that should allow us to blend it in better. thought of something else I want to add to this. There we go. That up. Yes, I will be. I'll be back on tomorrow. I wasn't sure to start with if I was going to do it or not, but yeah, I'll definitely be streaming tomorrow now. Get this guy finished off. And then we'll see how it's going for Friday. I might do Friday as well. And yeah, for tomorrow I'm going to see if I can find some of my early miniature sculpts. In fact, you know what, I wonder if they're still being sold. Let me just have a little look and see. That'll be an interesting one, won't it? Let's try to find them. There you go. You can see some of my old minis. Back from 2017, hand sculpted. The photo's not great, and obviously they've been painted, so you can't really tell how bad the sculpts are. We've got a necromancer, got an assassin over here, we've got a female elf assassin with a handbow, a dwarf berserker with a ball and chain and a sickle. This guy's my elf woodsman. This guy back here is an elf warrior. Back here we've got I think it's a war master or something like that, like a big twin-headed glaive. And I think this one at the back here with the hood, I think is this model here, but with the hood on instead. Let's see if we can find the original sculpts, the original figures of these then. I need to find the goblin pimp. I did, man. That's the one I'm looking for. I want to show you. Ah, found him. There we go. This is one of my old sculpts. This is probably going back to pre 2009 maybe, give or take. Where's that living on that? Pictures. Makes sense. 2009, that Scratch and Sniff the Goblin Pimp. Two 2009, it was sculpted in green stuff, so it was a physical, actual, pre-digital sculpture. It was 28mm scale. But yeah, for reference, this is where I started out. This is where my background was. So from working my way through the miniatures as a painter, kind of like gradually becoming into doing like conversions of the painted models, and that turned into sculpting sections of models. And then yeah, this guy Scratch and Sniff. It was made for a company called Magnificent Egos. So he got a pimp cane with a little rubber duck on the end, and little you know, nipple piercings and loads of rings and bling and stuff like that. Big pimp hat, massive coat, huge great big platform shoes. And I did another one for them that I haven't got a record of, unfortunately, which was the Druid. I need to see if Chris has got all of the old miniature photographs as well from Cursed Empire, from the original stuff. So if I can get some photos, I think it'd be good to kind of do a, you know, a then and now kind of thing. So yeah, so a little interesting insight into the past, and it's far more difficult sculpting like that than it is sculpting digital. Purely because you can, you've got crutches in digital like symmetry and copy and paste and stuff. With this, you've got nothing, and everything you have to build your wire armature, then you have to sculpt all of the green stuff onto the wire armature. You've got to smooth everything out, polish it, buff it, all that kind of stuff. And you've only got about an hour of working time, so you have to sculpt a little bit and then go, right, bit of discipline now, I'm going to put it down so I don't accidentally mess up the bit of detail that I'm happy with, park it and go on to another miniature. So you end up working on about 10 at a time usually. So when you're on a flow, you can kind of roll between them and flip and change. Yeah, I always quite like that sculpt. For me, I think it was one of my better ones. But in fact, to be fair, it was one of the last ones I actually did. It is proper old school, man. It's fun though. I mean, I'd encourage you to give it a go at some point. See about, you know, because the kind of the techniques you'll be employing in sculpting, if you're following the way I sculpt, you'll be able to use them in physical sculpting. You just have to have the right tools and stuff. But it's nice to go analog sometimes, you know what I mean, and have a little practice. And obviously, if you ever want to modify actual real miniatures from another supplier, like say if you're getting into Games Workshop stuff, it's not always practical to sculpt bits and then stick them onto the model. So sometimes you're going to want to physically sculpt directly to the figure. So it is a good skill to have, to be fair. But all the stuff I do now is based in my old kind of putty technique, but modified and brought up forward into the digital age. So let's leave it there. I'll get this guy posed tomorrow on stream, and then we'll finish him off by adding all his straps and things like that, and then we'll set up a little stage around him. Maybe do a body on the floor so it looks like he's already finished one off. So yeah, let's see how we get on. One final save for posterity. And I'm going to let you guys go, and I'll say adios, and I'll be back tomorrow, same time, 10 o'clock British Summer Time. So yeah. See you tomorrow, Trevor. Catch you later. Have a good one, and I'll see you tomorrow.